Hello, I'm Michael Stack with AMAX. This is the third part of the three-part mini-series on the tipping point in workers' compensation. And it's really a study of the lessons and the teachings of Malcolm Gladwell in the book, The Tipping Point, how little things can make a big difference when you're trying to implement change, when you're trying to start an epidemic of proper work comp management at your organization. In this third part of the series, I want to talk about what I think is really the most interesting part of his lessons, which is the power of context and how the situation, how the environment that you're in can often impact our actions in a way that's different than what would normally happen. This is dramatically displayed in the book by a study from the 1970s by Stanford University. And what they did is they created a mock prison, and they wanted to understand how that environment was going to impact the behavior of what they deemed as normal men. They had 75 people apply, and 21 were selected to participate in the study. Half of them became guards, half of them became prisoners. I'm going to read you a short passage of what happened in this study. It says that what we were unprepared for was the intensity of the change and the speed at which it happened. The guards were making the prisoners say to one another they loved each other and making them march down the hallway in handcuffs with paper bags over their heads. It was completely the opposite from the way I conduct myself now, a guard remembers. I think I was positively creative in terms of my mental cruelty. After 36 hours, one prisoner began to get hysterical and had to be released. 4 more had to be released because of extreme emotional depression, crying, rage, and acute anxiety. They had originally intended the experiment to run for 2 weeks, but they called it off after 6 days. I realize now, one of the prisoners said, that no matter how together I thought I was inside my head, my prisoner behavior was often less under my control than I realized. I think that's an extremely powerful study and very interesting story of how that situation of the prison impacted the behavior of those 21 normal men. Now compare this to your work comp management program. When an injured employee is out of work, they often report that they feel like they're exiled. They feel like the black sheep. How is that situation now going to impact their behavior? Maybe making them do things that they otherwise wouldn't normally do, causing that claim to be a lot more expensive and causing a much more poorer outcome for that individual. Maybe the environment at your organization is really one of tension. It's one of anxiety. It's one of challenge that's going to create your employees to do a fraudulent act that they wouldn't normally do. Remember the power of context and how that can impact the behavior of your employees and impact the cost of your workers' compensation management program. I'm Michael Stack with AMAX, and this was the Tipping Point in Workers' Compensation mini-series. Remember the 3 elements that Mr. Gladwell talks about in his book. The law of the few, leveraging those influencers in your company to get buy-in with your organization. The stickiness factor, how memorable your message is when you're trying to get your claims reported at that critical time of injury. That message needs to be remembered and acted on. And then finally, the power of context and how that can impact the behavior of your employees. So remember, your success in workers' compensation is defined by your integrity. So be great.